All right, on the second day of 1-10, we're going to be working with ordering numbers. So first thing we want to talk about is just being able to round correctly and practice putting square roots back in our calculator. So let's remember how to put this back into our calculator. Clear your calculator out. Then you'll use that second key that's up in the upper left-hand corner of your calculator. And then hit the X squared button because in the background, it should have the square root. So in your calculator, it should get you a square root, and you type in 128, and you hit equals, and let's write down the entire number that's on your calculator. 11.3137085. If you did not get that, try it again. On your calculator, your second button's in the upper left-hand corner, and then the X squared button's by the 7 to get that square root sign. Now, your directions tell you that you need to round to the nearest hundredth. What number is in the hundredths location? The 1 is in the hundredths location. So I know that everything in front of the 1 is going to stay. 11.3 is going to stay. With the 1, we look next door, only one number next door, and we see a 3. Is 3 big enough to make that 1 become a 2? No, it's not. So we leave it as 11.31. What number would it have to be in order for it to round up? 5. It would have to be a 5 or higher. A 5 or higher. All right, go and do the second one, the square root of 86, all by yourself. Write it all down, round it, and let's see what you get for an answer. All right, when I type in the square root of 86, I get 9.273618495. Again, it says hundredth location. This time the 7 is in our hundredth location. So the 9.2 in front of it gets to stay. We look next door. Is 3 big enough to make him round? No. So 9.27 is going to stay the same. This really comes down to, because we are going to order these numbers from least to greatest, which really means from smallest to biggest. But when we look at these numbers, they're all in different formats. So the very first thing that we have to do is we have to change all of these to be decimals. So you're going to use your calculator, and we're going to type 8 and 9/11ths in there. Now, really, 8 is your whole number, so don't type that into your calculator. That just means it's going in front of the decimal place. Then type 9 divided by 11 in your calculator, and you get 8181818181, which, yes, is 81 repeating. Let's write it a couple of times. 818181, and then Miss Hoff's going to put a dot, 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 just so I remember it keeps going if I need it. Okay, then the next one is 35 divided by 4, so type 35 divided by 4, and we get 8.75. Notice how I'm trying to line my numbers up here because I need to compare them. So you got to be really cautious with your handwriting and make sure you line all your numbers up. 8.77, the nice thing about that, it's already in a decimal, so I don't have to do anything other than copy it down. And same thing with the last one, 8.731. 8.731. Now notice I still labeled these over here so I remember what they are. Okay, when I write down my decimals, I want to remember what decimal goes with what number. Okay, so I start comparing my numbers now. So right away, 8, 8, 8, 8, they're all the same. 8, 7, 7, 7. Now, really we want to go from least to greatest, But because this guy's an 8 and he's the only 8, we know this has to be the biggest number when we're going to write this out. On the other ones that are all 7s, we got to go to the next number. 5, 7, 3. Which one's smallest? 3. So this is going to be our smallest number. So this number, 8 point, whoops, I should write that further over here. 8.731 is the smallest. Cross them off. Then I have a 7 and a 5. 5 would be next, so I'm going to write this number. Make sure you write it in the format originally given to you. Then 8.77, and we said the biggest was that 8 and 9/11ths. You have to write it using the numbers that were originally given to you. Yes, we're changing them to decimals to be able to compare them, but we want to write them in the original format. So organization is probably your most important in making sure you write down really carefully each of those decimals that you're typing into your calculator carefully, and you're transferring it onto your paper carefully. Okay, let's try one more on the back. Why would Miss Hoff say that this one's possibly a little bit more difficult than the last one? You know, there's negatives, and negatives always throw a curveball into what we're doing. Okay, so first things first, let's just get these numbers written down as decimals. We'll worry about everything else here in a minute. So take your calculator, and I want you to change all of these to decimals and write them down for me. All right, so we have these all written down. What's something you notice about your numbers? There's one number that is different from all the rest. Can anybody tell me what that is? This number right here, 4.29, is different because it's positive. Every other number is negative. So before we even have to do anything, we know that this has to be the biggest because it's the only positive number. Now be careful with negative numbers. Negatives are goofy. The bigger the number, the smaller it actually is with negatives. The bigger the number, the smaller it actually is. Okay? So right away we notice these all say -4, which are all the same. Then we have a 1, a 4, whoopsies, a 4, and a 2. So if I'm looking for the smallest negative, is actually the biggest number. So in our case, the biggest number is the 4. So this is actually the smallest number on my list, which is negative 4.4 repeating. And I cross that off. Then I have a 1 and a 2. The biggest number would be 2. So negative 47/11. Cross that off. Negative square root of 17. Cross that off. And the only positive number we had was 4.29. As you do your homework today, read carefully. Make sure you have a piece of work paper. If you want to grab one off the back counter, you have your own notebook paper. But you have to write the decimals down. Okay, if you want help from Mr. Breest or myself, you have to have them written down, and then we can help you through that. Don't forget to complete this by Friday morning at 8 a.m.